Hello, everybody. Thank you all so much for joining us. My name is Matt Mahoney. I'm the Director of Government Affairs for Sustainable Pittsburgh. Just to note for everybody that this presentation will be recorded and all of the materials will be shared after today's program. I encourage you, everybody, to submit questions in the Q&A box, and we'll collect those questions and answer as many as we can at the end. Just a bit about Sustainable Pittsburgh. We're committed to building the knowledge, perspective, and ability needed to create a better tomorrow for our region. We're optimistic, having worked with nearly 1,000 businesses, communities, and organizations to take action using our customized frameworks to track progress and simultaneously advance social equity, environmental stewardship, and prosperity. The strategic networks we host leverage the collective expertise and diverse perspectives within our region to ensure our communities can meet the challenges today and thrive into the future. That's why we've all asked you to here today to be part of our Sustainable Community Development Network, to learn together so that we can act together. And that's how we create a fundamentally equitable, resilient, healthy, and prosperous Southwestern Pennsylvania. Now, for our agenda today, we're first going to do a quick update on the Sustainable Pennsylvania program from Sawyer Seidlinger, and then I'm going to help set the stage for today's discussion on municipal sustainability teams and discuss some of the scoping decisions and organizing principles to think about when considering teaming up on sustainability topics. Then we'll move to a presentation by Mark Hand, the director of Pennsylvania's Green Gov Council, probably the largest sustainability team here in Pennsylvania. And he'll cover a variety of topics based on our state government's experience advancing sustainability initiatives. Then we'll have Chris Naif from Pennsylvania's Department of Environmental Protection to discuss his work and experiences with municipal teams on climate-related issues. And last but certainly not least, we'll hear from Ted Ritzik with Pennsylvania's Department of Community Economic Development, who's going to cover resources available for municipalities working across jurisdictions to tackle a wide range of different issues. And like I said, we'll leave time for Q&A at the end. So please put those questions into the Q&A part or the chat. So now, as promised, I'm going to pass the mic to my colleague Sawyer, who's going to do a quick overview of Sustainable Pennsylvania program. And we're excited because over the past few years, our team has worked really hard to update this program. So we want to provide everybody with a quick update. So, Sawyer.
Thanks, Matt, and thank you for everyone for joining us today. As Matt mentioned, I'm going to be providing a quick overview of the Sustainable Pennsylvania program, which has been in place for nearly a decade. The Pennsylvania Municipal League and Sustainable Pittsburgh have been working together to help Pennsylvania municipalities realize the benefits of sustainability by jointly administering Sustainable PA certification program. Pennsylvania's local leaders have a profound role in advancing quality of life and access to opportunities in their communities. Using sustainability as a strategic framework helps municipalities achieve these goals. And that's why Sustainable PA program covers a comprehensive set of sustainability topics and provides step-by-step guidance for how your community can advance its performance in areas including waste and materials management, economic development, revitalization, energy, land use, and housing, and many more areas around these issues. Oops. Sorry, my personal slides are stuck. There we go. Okay. Sustainable Pennsylvania program offers several benefits. It can help you baseline your municipality's current sustainability performance, as well as serve as an action plan for advancing your sustainability performance. To help you advance your program, the program also offers resources, tools, and best practices. Getting certified helps your community be recognized as a leader in sustainability. You will receive a promotional kit, which includes a badge for inclusion on your website, job postings, or other uses, and a press release template. We also share your achievement over social media. Participation in this program can help you resource your sustainability development initiatives and provide a platform for interested stakeholders to engage. Sustainable PA is also a recognized program, or recognized on the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development's municipal funding applications, which can help a funding application stand out. There are just 4 steps to getting certified. First, you will need to create an account on the Sustainable Pennsylvania online program portal. Next, answer all the questions in the program. The program takes the form of an online assessment, and the questions are customized for municipalities. You can work with a team of colleagues to complete this, which would be a great way to help organize a sustainability team at your municipality. Third, after you complete the assessment and submit it, our staff will provide feedback on your responses, and you will have a chance to address them before submitting your final answers. And last, you will earn a bronze, silver, gold, or platinum certification level based on 2 criteria: the total percentage of possible points you earned, and whether or not you completed the required actions for each level. My apologies, I'm having some technical difficulties. There is no deadline to finish this program, so you can earn your certification at your own pace. Once you are certified, the certification will last for 3 years, but you do not need to wait for your certification to expire before seeking a new one. You can log back into your account at any time to view your saved answers and update them to seek a higher certification level. After your first submission, you won't have to re-answer every question each time you resubmit. Join the 126 certified municipalities in Pennsylvania, which collectively serve 3.9 million residents, in supporting healthy residents, building vibrant communities, and advancing environmental responsible practices. Next steps: make sure you're creating an account, check out our FAQs to see more information about our programs, and then lastly, meet with the Sustainable Pennsylvania team to learn more and get started. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Sawyer. Appreciate your overview, and highly encourage. I'll echo what Sawyer said. If anybody has any questions or wants to learn more about the Sustainable Pennsylvania program, please do reach out. And for anybody else that's interested in learning more about Sustainable PA and learning more about sustainability, we wanted to let everybody know about the upcoming Sustainable PA annual conference. Registration is open, so please sign up now. The link is not shared right now, but if there is somebody on the webinar right now that would like to share that registration link, please do, but we'll also include that in the follow-up email. And this year's theme is helping local communities reach their energy emission reduction goals. So please take some time to look at that conference and consider joining us. So into the content for today's webinar, activating municipal sustainability teams to attract funding. So let's review some of the key considerations and approaches to organizing a municipal sustainability team for success. Sustainability issues affect all municipalities increasingly over recent years. More local governments and residents are recognizing sustainability as a community priority that involves significant large-scale risks and opportunities. To ensure sustainability is a pillar of a community plan or strategy, municipal leaders lead from the front by embedding sustainability into strategy and empowering sustainability teams to engage proactively and to strategically hold them responsible for creating measurable change. So in preparing for this webinar, and I found an article that I thought was very helpful and relevant to the local government community. It was an article published by McKinsey. A team of researchers explored how leaders should build sustainability teams that are well-placed, well-governed, and appropriately empowered. So teams that are well-placed, well-governed, and appropriately empowered. Those 3 themes are consistent throughout the article. Now, the article was written for the business community, but its recommendations are certainly helpful for local governments that are at various stages of considering the benefits of sustainability teams. And in this article, the authors outline 4 ways that leaders can guide the design of sustainability teams to empower action and positive change. So that first recommendation is to design according to sustainability topics, not sustainability overall. So some of us already know that sustainability is often used as this catch-all term that covers a lot of different topics. But we all know that there are very few topics that will have equal importance across any community. Sustainability is a comprehensive, ongoing commitment to support healthy residents, build vibrant communities, and advance environmentally responsible practices. Municipalities can address sustainability issues more effectively when they design sustainability teams to focus on each priority sustainability topic. So thinking modular teams that focus on priorities. They're often more nimble and can evolve to rapidly changing needs or immediate needs. To do this well, local governments should co-define those sustainability priority topics that matter with the community, either because they're a priority to the community or because the issues are in areas where local governments are uniquely positioned to make a difference. Again, design according to sustainability topics, not sustainability overall. That's the first recommendation of this article in developing sustainability teams. The second is to give that central sustainability team the decision rights to execute change. Now, there's varying sizes and parameters that a central sustainability team, different characteristics it can take on, but it's important to note that a large central team isn't always necessary to implement sustainability agendas successfully. Many have carried out sustainability actions with a small central team overseeing many different external resources through resource partners, and then evolving to task forces that execute a detailed planning and implementation process. Some highly effective sustainability efforts that we've seen have organized in a way that they have a central sustainability team whose specific mandate is to incubate new sustainability ideas and integrate those sustainability initiatives across their municipality, as well as working with neighboring municipalities. But what makes a central team particularly effective is having the decision-making authority to execute change. So those in leadership roles that have the authority to execute change and the decision-making authority to make that change are very important to be engaged in sustainability teams, especially with sustainability topics that have multiple functions or would have a material impact on the community. Now, that decision-making authority, recognizing that it will look very different in every community, but it is very important when considering the development of sustainability teams to have meaningful dialogue and discourse within your community on what that meaningful level of decision-making authority should be to ensure that progress can advance. The third recommendation is to find the structure that best fits your sustainability agenda. Finding that structure, it will look very different in every community, but there are some common models for sustainability teams to consider. And within those models are those three things I mentioned earlier: the resources required for action. Second, who are the external resource partners, such as nonprofits, businesses, or maybe community partners or other partners? Who are they? And then third, how is decision-making authority delegated amongst this team, and how these elements are structured? So the resources, the external resources, and the decision-making authority, how those elements are structured can determine how quickly a sustainability issue can be addressed, how resource-intensive one team model is opposed to another, and how responsive teams can be to evolving priorities. So the fourth recommendation is to prioritize the design of process and governance to account for sustainability's complexity and dynamic nature. So in other words, it's a lot of words. In other words, it's highly important to think carefully and thoughtfully through how decisions will be made by a team, how resources are managed, and how resource partners are activated, because sustainability actions can be and are complicated and often multifaceted. So it pays to spend more time designing processes and governance structures earlier on in the sustainability teaming journey. It's also valuable to develop sustainability-specific performance indicators, which will vary depending on the topic, but setting measurable targets for teams to work towards can provide a community with the goals it needs to capture value from sustainability in a systemic way. So with those recommendations in mind, the reason that this is all important, why would sustainability teams be important now? So especially over the past 3 years, we've witnessed truly game-changing legislation passed out of the federal government, and a lot of funding opportunities encourage teaming up when tackling a variety of different sustainability topics. So there's certainly a lot for one municipality to consider, but a multi-jurisdictional, even a regional approach improves capacity and opportunities in partnership with other units of government, nonprofit partners, businesses, and other institutions. Teaming helps fill those capability and experience gaps that may exist within a municipality. When we don't have the technical expertise, past performance, resources, or other things that we need to effectively address an issue, a local government maybe doesn't have the capacity on its own. Teaming up can open up additional funding opportunities where they may have once been inaccessible. There is groundwork, however, needed to be built before these teams can be successful. Relationships and trust need to be built. So by the time that funding opportunity and announcement has been made, the terms and conditions of any proposal are much easier to navigate with your partners. So with that being said, I'm going to introduce our first speaker, Mark Hand, who is the director of Pennsylvania's Green Gov Council within the Department of General Services. As I mentioned earlier, the Green Gov Council may be one of our largest sustainability teams in Pennsylvania. But prior to Green Gov, Mark worked for the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection for 19 years, mostly in the Energy Programs Office, working on a variety of different programs. So I'm going to pass the mic to Mark and let you take it away on the Green Gov Council.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Yeah, thanks for letting me speak today to your audience. And I just wanted to echo what Matt said, that the McKinsey report is really a great, or the article is a great piece to start with when you're creating a sustainability team. I read it a few times in advance of this webinar and actually learned a few things myself from it. So happy to talk about what we do at Green Gov Council, and you know, we can go from there. So again, Mark Hand, I'm the director of the Green Gov Council, and I have a deputy director, Matt Reese, and we are essentially the staff of our Green Gov Council. So I know Matt said we are a large sustainability team, but we essentially have a staff of two, and essentially our C-suite decision makers. We have our council, so to speak, is the secretaries of three Commonwealth agencies: the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, Department of Environmental Protection, and our Department of General Services. So those make up our council and provide us direction moving sustainability across Commonwealth agencies, which our Commonwealth agencies are the ones under the governor's jurisdiction, which are 30 plus strong agencies. And then we also have some independent agencies that participate as well with us in this council. Next slide. So the Green Gov Council, it started under an executive order in 2019. It's supported by the Shapiro administration with a re-up into the US Climate Alliance. We are one of 25, perhaps even 26 states now, with Arizona joining. I'm not sure what the number is, but essentially these states are agreeing to work together to meet climate reduction goals, to work towards the Paris Agreement and track progress and accelerate green policies. So our sort of peers at the state level are these states in blue. We have you know, probably quarterly or biannual conversations on different topics with some of the states that have a program like Green Gov. So we're not alone by any stretch of the imagination. You know, some states have one or two employees doing this type of work, which is called a lead by example program. It's essentially what we're administrating. Of course, some of the other states have dozens of employees. So it's just the size changes from one state to the next. And next slide. So what are we actually implementing? So Matt and I implement sort of the environmental sustainability part of sustainability. So we encourage incorporation of environmentally sustainable practices in the Commonwealth's policy planning, operations, procurement, and regulatory functions. It's a big job. There's a lot of work to do. There's also a ton of opportunity because this really has not been done recently anyway, for some time. So there's a lot of opportunities in Commonwealth operations. So, and then our four primary goals are to reduce energy consumption, purchase electric vehicles, procure renewable energy, and build new buildings and major renovations to high performance standards. And that's really important when you're setting sustainability targets. These are big goals, but they're achievable. And on my next slide, I just want to show you an example of one of the ways that we've actually met those targets from 2019 already through our power purchase agreement. Hopefully some of you have heard, but if not, you're hearing it now for the first time, that the PA Pulse was a solar procurement that we completed through our Department of General Services Bureau of Procurement. And it basically, from our 30 plus agencies, we have over 434 accounts tied to this large solar purchase of 191 megawatts of solar that will be coming online over the next year or so in state. So this is a big win. And I guess I just wanted to, this is not really so much about sustainability teams, but I guess the point here is it involves coordination with 16 agencies and 434 plus accounts. And so I guess from a, if you're looking at it from a local level, if you want to sort of scale up, this would be a great opportunity for local partnerships where maybe you could leverage your utility purchasing power with other of your neighbors to sort of scale up the size of a project. So just, and so this actually, I just wanted to say one thing about this was that this project alone coming online, we now are on the EPA Green Power Partnership, and we're now ranked 53 overall on the top 100 behind the US federal GSA. And then we're also actually in front of the state of California with just this one procurement on the list of green procurement. So next slide. And so another way that we monitor our and leverage our some of our success is through the GreenGov agency checklist. We are now working on our 5th year of sustainability checklists is essentially what this is. This is for Matt and for others for Sustainable Pittsburgh. We basically modeled the GreenGov agency checklist at least years ago based on Sustainable PA and got some ideas for our checklist. This is a way that we work to green state government operations, and you can kind of see the categories there. So it's not a certification per se, but essentially all 30 plus agencies participate on an annual basis to sort of benchmark where they are on what we are categorizing as environmental sustainability measures. And so everyone sort of has a similar scorecard that they're evaluated against. Next slide. And then probably the sort of like the meat of where we spend a lot of our time is in these what we call GreenGov program focus groups. We have a number of things going on. So essentially, because Matt and I are the staff of the council and the agencies are so large and there's so many things going on, we couldn't possibly, do this without a lot of collaboration between agencies. And so really, this wasn't really a part of our executive order, but we had to set up a process and essentially a sustainable team framework of sorts where we sort of kind of broke up the goals of the executive order into categories, and we have state agency working groups for each of these 6 goals. So over the last few years, for example, the sustainability team focus group, we had a litter pickup event. We actually have a sustainability planning tool that's on our website that so you can kind of, as an agency or even a local government can use it. It's based on the UN Sustainable Development Goals, where you can sort of build your plan for developing a sustainability team on a tool that we have on our website. We have, through that group, we had our first sustainability week in October 2 years ago, and we're hoping to do that, our 3rd one this October. And then also we, not to get too wonky, but we have a management directive that we updated, which requires agency sustainability teams for each agency under the governor's jurisdiction. So those are some highlights of just that group. So under our utility management focus group, we basically we use an energy tracking tool called Energy Cap. Maybe some of you use that. It's essentially a utility management system, but essentially a lot of our agencies are just learning how to navigate that, generate reports, how to use utility bill analysis and things like that. So essentially our utility management focus group is just trying to make sure that agencies have a handle and can communicate their energy use and set, work towards set their own goals for their agency through that group. And then EVs and EV charging, we have, we have a procurement model that's available through CoStars where you can, that we developed to support that group. We call it the Electric Vehicle Supply Equipment, ITQ. And then that group also, because electric vehicles and EV charging, even though it seems relatively easy, there's a lot of education about EVs that really get discussed in these quarterly meetings with state agencies on an ongoing basis. Just a few more highlights. Green facility management is a focus group for the facilities. We developed an Energy Star procurement method. So if a facility thinks that they're ready to be Energy Star certified, they have that procurement mechanism. We have an ASHRAE energy audit procurement that I'll be working on getting the first one done here. We're also involved in ISO 50001 energy management standard, where the Green Gov Council developed our own version of an energy management standard based on our operations to make it easier for agencies to use instead of maybe some of the other opportunities out there. So, and then construction and leasing, we have a high performance lease available so that our leasing team can execute high performance leases. We're working on a green building educational video module series with Penn State University. So that's going to be published and available on our website later this year. And we do different things we're trying to increase our environmentally preferred procurements. All these things we can actually partner with local governments as well, because I think we generally sometimes use the same procurement methods. And then if you go to the next slide, I just wanted to give you an example of we developed a tangible thing, which is kiosks, recycling kiosks, which seems pretty basic, but it's quite an effort of this group, and it's now I think we're up to like 8 or 10 locations in Commonwealth facilities and expanding. It continues to expand. So anytime you can, create even like small little things, they sort of have a ripple effect, and I'd encourage you to consider those items. So now, next slide, please. So from a Green Gov communications, we're working with on a climate resilience network with external stakeholders. So I'm not going to get too far into this, but we have 8 agencies that are in an MOU to fund a climate network where we're looking to educate folks on the next leaders, the climate leaders in Pennsylvania, and to work on solutions to tackle mitigation and resilience amongst all sectors and in the Commonwealth. So this is a peer-to-peer networking opportunity. We're going to have an 8-hour training that's going to be available online this fall. So there's opportunities for folks to be a member of the network as we develop it, to be on the advisory board. Lots of opportunities there if you're interested. Next slide. And again, I said this earlier, we have a sustainability week that we're working on. This year would be, we had 2 years in a row. This year should be October 2nd through 6th, keeping the first week in October as the week. Last year we had 1,500 participants in in a number of virtual webinars that we had. And a little bit challenging this year because we don't have a state budget at the moment. So last year we were able to hire some consulting help to help us market. This year we'll be doing it a little bit on a smaller budget for sure, but the content will still be great, and encourage you all to participate. Next slide. And if you haven't caught any of them, we've had 4 webinar series and a nice partnership with the Penn State Sustainability Institute. Between the Commonwealth and Penn State, we certainly have, we can pull from subject matter experts, and there's just numerous topics on all things sustainability, not just environmental sustainability, but we tackle really any sort of issues with all 17 of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Actually, this week we have our first meeting to start coordinating and planning for probably a late fall, sometime after Sustainability Week, for the webinars, this webinar series to get started for the fifth webinar series. Next slide. And then just, things that you don't think about. I didn't necessarily know we were going to get involved with this, but we actually love this program. It's a Lights Out initiative and Lights Out Harrisburg. There's 2 different times during the year where migratory birds are, moving through Pennsylvania, April 1st through May 31st, and then again, August 15th through November 15th. And basically, if you don't know much about this, there's migratory birds, their habitat is being impacted by a number of things, from development to climate change. And, essentially they get, the birds and a number of other animals get messed up by our exterior lighting, and there's bird kills and things like that. So this is a good way to actually, communicate that we are connected to our environment, that we actually have more to do than just, we have more responsibility than just maintaining our facilities, and there's a bigger picture to it. So I just encourage you to get involved with that, maybe set this up in your community. And I think that's my last slide. So thanks a lot, Matt.
Well, thanks so much, Mark. That was a really fantastic. We did actually have a few questions that popped up. First was that sustainability planning tool that you had at the beginning there. Is there a way to share that, or is there a link that we can access that to?
Yeah, I will pull it off our web and drop it in the chat here momentarily.
Great. And maybe that's great. And maybe one other question, the Green Gov's 4 goals. And I maybe, is it reduce, replace, procure, and build? Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. And just so everybody's aware, we'll be circulating the slides, but again, it's reduce, replace, procure, build. So we'll have those slides circulated so everybody has that. But thank you very much, Mark. That was fantastic. Great number of resources, and appreciate your participation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Chris Naif as an energy program specialist with the Energy Programs Office here in Pennsylvania's Department of Environmental Protection. He's worked in climate action in a few different capacities. Prior to working with the Commonwealth, he's worked as a sustainability coordinator for the city of Harrisburg. Has a great educational background too, working on a PhD in environmental social science, which I find incredibly interesting. I'd love to pick your brain on that later. But for now, let's stick to the topic of sustainability teams, and I'll let you take it away.
All right, thanks, Matt. First, I want to apologize everyone for that picture. But also, yeah, as you mentioned, my name is Christopher Naif. I'm an energy program specialist in the Energy Programs Office at DEP. So our office manages several non-regulatory programs related to energy efficiency, renewable energy, and energy security for the state. And among those are a set of programs designed to assist local governments with climate action planning and implementation. So the Local Climate Action Program and Shared Energy Manager are 2 that I have the pleasure of managing. These types of programs assist local governments with creating plans to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and tackle other sustainability initiatives, which, as was mentioned, is the same kind of work that I was engaged in my previous position as the sustainability coordinator for the city of Harrisburg. And that's the same kind of work that I assist other local governments with completing these today. Can you go to the next slide? So at the Energy Programs Office, I work with Lindsay Byron, who runs our climate change program. The program was established by the Pennsylvania Climate Change Act, Act 70 of 2008, and that act requires us to administer a climate change advisory committee, which meets every other month, to develop a statewide inventory of greenhouse gas emissions, which is updated annually, to create a climate impacts assessment and climate action plan, both of which are updated every 3 years. And we are also now working on a climate pollution reduction plan related to the EPA grant program, which has come out recently. So 3 of the larger metro areas in the state are receiving their own funding for that as well: Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and Allentown. And then the state is developing a program to try and collaborate with the remaining counties and municipalities. Can you go to the next slide? So this graph is from our most recent greenhouse gas inventory. Looks like not everything came through on that as far as one or two of the trend lines, but I'll just mention that in addition to what we're required to do from Act 70, also due to an executive order from the former governor, Tom Wolf, we have reduction goals for greenhouse gas emissions, and one of which is to reduce emissions by 26%, by 2025, and then also a reduction of 80% by 2050 from our baseline year in 2005. Some of the trend lines didn't show up on here, but you can see an overall reduction trend over time from when we started the measurements. And the goal for 2025 actually was met in 2020. Of course, we kind of have a little bit of an asterisk on that thanks to the COVID lockdowns. So what we're going to be trying to pay attention to going forward now is what kind of changes were achieved that might have had a more permanent impact on, say, like commercial properties and transportation due to the permanent increase in telework. But the majority of the decrease in emissions over time for the state have been as a result of switching from coal-based electricity generation to natural gas. Can you go to the next slide? Okay. One of the strategies identified in the climate action plans that I had mentioned was local and state governments leading by example in practices and assets. So that led my predecessor, Heidi Kunsch, to develop the local climate action plan program. So it was created as a partnership model, which involves funding from the federal government, the Department of Energy. The Energy Programs Office at the state level administers the program. We work with local governments, so counties and municipalities, and partner them with colleges and universities, and contract ICLEI USA as the nonprofit who initially worked to do the training and management of the student and local government teams. We are still contracting them, but now we're just utilizing them for the ClearPath tool that they have, which is pretty good for loading in information to complete greenhouse gas emissions and calculations related to that. But we're partnering with the Penn State Sustainability Institute now, who is managing the local governments and the students who are working on the this program. So this is a map of the participants that we've had in the program so far. There have been 64 participants representing a total of 440 municipalities over the past 4 years. We've had 55 municipalities, 5 counties, and 4 regional planning organizations. Greenhouse gas inventories have been completed by all of the participants. 23 of them have actually finalized and completed their climate action plans, with another 17 to 18 that have at least completed a draft plan and are looking to at various different stages of trying to finalize that. And we have another cohort starting up next month. So I wanted to go over some of the types of projects that are completed by the local governments that go through these types of programs and processes. And so when I was at the city of Harrisburg, I was one of the participants in the LCAP program. And there are a number of projects that I started and other people who work for the city had started as well, working with different departments internally as well as external partners. One of those was the city engineer, Wayne Martin, who had actually started a lot of this work even before I got there. He had utilized something that I like to promote a lot, guaranteed energy savings agreements, which are available for local governments and also the state government, to try to create some energy efficiency programs to reduce energy use and greenhouse gas emissions, and also save the city some money. One of his more successful ones was the conversion of all of the city streetlights over to LEDs. So that project saved the city $500,000 a year on the electricity bill. Actually, I found out when I went to renew our contract, it reduced the total of that, as well as some other efforts that we had taken up, had reduced the total electricity use of the city by 40% from between 2015 and 2020. So that was one thing I wanted to mention. Could you go to the next slide? Another project that we worked on, again, with the city engineer, Wayne Martin, as well as Ambrose Buck, who was the city the engineering project manager at the time. We actually partnered with the state Department of General Services to install electric vehicle charging stations on 3rd Street in front of the State Museum near the Capitol. So that involved several state representatives who came to us to ask us to work with them to put chargers in a place that they could utilize. It involved multiple city departments and also a successful application to the DEP Driving PA Forward program to provide funding for it. So there was multiple state agencies and multiple city departments involved in that process. And this is the sort of thing you see pretty typically when you're trying to do this kind of work. Go to the next slide. Another project that I worked on for a long time that was actually started by someone else in the city, the parks maintenance director before me, was an attempt to get a large solar array installed that would have supplied a significant portion of the municipal power used by Harrisburg. So I worked with LACSWAMA, Lancaster County Solid Waste Management Authority, to look at installing solar panels on top of the ash landfills and the buildings at the Susquehanna Resource Management Complex, which most people just know as the trash incinerator in Southern Harrisburg. So we were set to apply for funding from the state's redevelopment assistance capital program with LACSWAMA and a third party. And then COVID hit, so the whole thing was shelved. But this is a map of the plan, what we are looking to try and do in terms of installing. If you could go back real quick, sorry. This is a map of the plan that we had for trying to install a large solar array of that capacity. It would have provided about between 1/3 and 40% of all the municipal electricity for the city, and would have repurposed the local trash incinerator and landfill site into a source of renewable energy. And there have been a few other participants in the LCAP program who have achieved similar types of things with solar co-ops out in Pittsburgh, the Triborough Eco District, and then also State College recently has done a large solar installation as well. So one of the primary functions of the Energy Programs Office is to run the state energy program. A lot of the things that I was just describing before, the types of programs and projects that we have, largely come from funding and resources that we're getting from the federal government, and then we're utilizing to try to create programs for local governments. And a lot of that comes out of our energy, the state energy program. So stay on that slide. Sorry. So can you go back real quick? Thank you. So I just wanted to mention that the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act and the Inflation Reduction Act are providing a lot of additional funding to run these kinds of things right now. We got an additional $14 million in funding to expand a number of different existing programs, as well as implementing some new ones. Things like the state's Clean Energy Workforce Program, our Clean Energy Program, Commercial Kitchen Modernization, Microgrid Sustainability, electric vehicle rate design, and then also a program that I run, which is Shared Energy Manager. You can go to the next slide now. Okay, so as I mentioned, one of the programs I run is Shared Energy Manager, which is designed to assist local governments increase energy efficiency and implement their climate action plans. So we've had 2 years of the program so far, and the 2 years originally, we had supported 5 local governments which participated. They were communities that had gone through our LCAP program, and we were helping them implement the plans that were created. So going forward, we're going to be expanding it. We're looking at about 20 different participating local governments each year, and getting a lot of additional funding from DOE to do that. And we're also expanding it so that it's not just a matter of including 4 times as many participants, but also expanding the scope. Previously, it was just looking at trying to help local governments with their energy use for maintaining their own facilities and operations. But we're going to be asking them to look at programs that would be available and beneficial to residents and to commercial properties as well going forward. I just also wanted to mention a few of the other programs that are going to be getting some funding from the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act or the Inflation Reduction Act. So we're going to be having an energy efficiency revolving loan fund and an energy efficiency and conservation block grant program, which are both receiving, well, $3.3 and $3 million. So they'll provide low interest loans and grants for energy efficiency projects, renewable energy, zero emission transportation, primarily municipalities that were not eligible for direct funding from the federal government are the ones that we're going to be looking to try and target with that. Okay. The bulk of the funding that our office is going to be receiving from the Inflation Reduction Act is going to be for the homes in here rebates for energy efficiency. So Pennsylvania is going to be receiving $129 million for home energy performance-based rebates and also $129 million for the high efficiency electric home rebate program. So these two programs are for whole house energy efficiency rebates with higher rebate amounts going to low to moderate income households, and energy efficiency rebates on prescribed appliances for low income homes as well. Okay. Related to that, we also have a contractor training program, which will reduce state's costs of training contractor employees, provide testing and certification of contractors, trained and educated under state programs, and support partnerships to develop and implement a state workforce energy program. So this funding can be used to attract, train, certify, place, and retain a diverse set of local workers to deliver the new federally funded efficiency and electrification programs that are being rolled out. Next slide. Okay. And finally, the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant Program is money from the EPA that provided $250 million in climate pollution reduction planning to states and cities across the country. Following that up, the EPA is going to issue a separate notice in the future of funding opportunities to access $4.6 billion in implementation grants after the conclusion of the planning grant period. So the implementation grants are awarded through a competitive process for some of the projects outlined in the planning grants, which were already completed. So right now we're working on the planning grant process. So as I mentioned before, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and Allentown are each getting $1 million. And the state of Pennsylvania, and I just want to be clear, I'm not talking about just the city proper. It's for the area. So like the Philadelphia region, Pittsburgh region, Allentown region. It includes the other municipalities surrounding the cities as well. And the state is going to be receiving $3 million. And we're currently working on a process to engage counties and local municipalities to be covered under that as well. So that's a lot of the sort of funding and opportunities that are available right now and that are going to be coming out over the next couple of years, which may go towards some of the efforts that we've been talking about and sort of feeds into the idea of this whole thing of sustainability teams and the role that our office in the state can play in that process.
Thanks so much, Chris. And yes, lots of opportunity. I think that you put a really nice cap on the title to activate funding, those teaming opportunities to activate funding. That's what this is. That's what it's all about. But please, here's Chris's contact info. I did have one quick question. So that you had the list of municipalities with climate action plans. Is there a map or is there a repository, a publicly accessible repository where we know where those municipalities may be?
Yes. So on our website, there is a local climate page with a sub-page both for Shared Energy Manager and a separate sub-page for the LCAP program specifically. So there's a list of all the participating local governments there, as well as links to any of the climate action plans which have actually been finalized and made public. And then, of course, I think I also have a link to that map that I put there as well.
Oh, fantastic. Yes, we'll be interested in seeing that. And then last question, when is the Shared Energy Manager program anticipated to open up or be available?
I wish I had a more complete answer to that. All I can tell you for sure is that the RFP has already been written and it's being reviewed as we speak, I could be told any day that it's ready to go at this point.
Gotcha. Well, that's exciting developments. Well, thanks again, Chris. Very much appreciate your presentation, and please do reach out to Chris. And then without further ado, let us move on. I know in the brief amount of time that we have here, Ted Ritzik from the the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development will be joining us here. Ted is a planner for the PA Department of Community and Economic Development, serving in the northeastern area of Pennsylvania, a certified planner with the American Institute of Certified Planners, and promotes municipal capacity building, quality of life improvements, sound municipal land practices, and multi-municipal cooperation, which is the name of our show today. So thanks so much, Ted, for joining us, and I'll hand the mic over to you.
Hello there, everyone, and thank you, Matt, for introducing me. So a little bit about who I work for. I work for the Governor's Center for Local Government Services, and today I'm going to talk to you about multi-municipal planning. So the Governor's Center for Local Government Services is a interesting body within the Pennsylvania Department of the Community and Economic Development. So, you know, hundreds of years ago, when Pennsylvania was founded by William Penn, he had this idea where he said, you know, this is a really big place. And because of the way information and because of the way goods travel hundreds of years ago, the best thing that we can do is decentralize everything in our Commonwealth so that the individuals who make up the communities can make their own decisions, because nobody can manage a place this large from a central perspective. Well, things have changed since the time of William Penn, but fundamentally, our form of government necessarily has not. So for those of you maybe a little bit familiar with Pennsylvania municipal government, there is about 2,500 and change local governments in Pennsylvania, and everything is very decentralized. So what we do in the Governor's Center for Local Government Services is provide information and technical assistance on a variety of topics to help you make your community a better place to live. So what I do is planning. And for those of you who might not be that familiar, planning, according to, you know, Planetizen and the American Planning Association, you want to take a look at your community like a puzzle, and there's many pieces, and you want the pieces to complement each other and to connect. And when they do that, you end up in a situation to where you have a much better perspective of you know, what your community is, what you want to do, how you want to grow, and things like that. And sustainability is one of those puzzle pieces that you can add to your puzzle and you can talk about as part of your planning process to really make your community a better place to live. Next slide, please. And planning is a game changer for local governments. You know, there are communities who in Pennsylvania are very adamant about doing planning. And for some of you who maybe don't do planning and you want to, I can't emphasize to you enough that you really should do planning. That planning is going to be your roadmap to success. It adds value for the public. And also, I'll talk a little bit more about this later, tells us some things as the state government who's responsible for handing out grants. And also, you know, in taking account the trends and changes in your community, the ones that happened and the ones that you project, what you're going to be able to do is find out, you know, who do I want to be in 10 years? And you can put that in writing through developing your planning documents. Next slide, please. So in Pennsylvania, and I'll just mention this quick, the legislation that authorizes you to do planning is the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code. And fundamentally, for those who work with local governments or are elected officials here, fundamentally the law states that the authority is in the elected officials to do planning. So if you're a supervisor, a borough council person, a staff person, you know, get involved in planning, update your plans, update your zoning ordinances, and involve your community in that process. If anything, next slide, please. There's a really compelling reason to do it. And it says so right here in the Municipalities Planning Code in section 619.2. I'm not going to read the whole thing for you, but the short version of it is, if you update your plans, if you use your plans, if you have fresh plans, fresh zoning ordinances, you are actively utilizing those documents. When you go to apply for grants with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, it's right here in the law where it says we have to pay attention to those plans. And, you know, in lots of grant applications, they're going to score higher because you're actively using your planning documents to inform those applications. That puts you at a huge competitive advantage over the municipalities who aren't doing planning. Next slide. Even better than doing just planning on your own in your own municipality, because no municipality is an island. We like for you to do multi-municipal planning and hopefully implement that into zoning. So what that gives you is, instead of just your municipality, you have a regional perspective. It gives you options too for land use, so you can do joint zoning ordinance and administration, or if you don't want to dive in and share an ordinance with someone, you could share land uses like pickup trucks. How does that work? Well, very simply, if there is, and you can scale this too, you can scale this up to as many communities as you want, but if there's a landfill in one community and the other community has, let's say, an amusement park, and one community doesn't want the landfill and the other community doesn't want an amusement park, the communities can do a comprehensive plan together, and the community with the landfill meets the requirement for that land use in both communities, just as the community with the amusement park does. So if you do a plan and update your zoning and there's a land use in one and not the other, it meets the requirement for all the available land uses. For sustainability, in terms of making sure things go where they don't harm the environment, it's a really good way to make sure that you're ensuring land uses go in the most effective place for them on a regional perspective. Next slide, please. So again, back to, for a municipal official, I interact with people all the time, and I have this slide in all my presentations. This is a typical conversation, obviously, I have with the municipal official. It's, what inspired you to do multi-municipal planning and zoning? And literally, I bring up the conversation of money, and you'll have your municipal elected officials shaking their heads like, okay, yeah, I definitely want to do this now because I can see that there is a financial incentive and a quality of life incentive in it for my community. Next slide, please. So what specifically are they, right? First one, economies of scale. If you're going to do a plan together, you're going to update your zoning together, it's going to be cheaper. It's the same thing as you and your neighbor paving a driveway together. If you have a shared driveway, it's cheaper for both of you to do it at the same time and share the cost than each of you to pave half your driveway on your own normally. The other thing is, and this can be a controversial topic, sharing of taxes and fees. You don't have to. It's a tool in the toolbox. Nobody's going to make you. The other thing is, I'm going to talk about the municipal assistance program a little bit later, but you're very competitive for DCED planning funds when you come to us and say, hey, me and another municipality, 2, 3, 4, however many you want, we want to do multi-municipal planning. We look at you and we say, okay, we like multi-municipal planning, we like regionalization, we can help you fund that. The final thing is state and federal grant dollars. I mentioned that section in the MPC already, but I've had conversations with folks who work in federal agencies, and they say the same thing to me. When we see an application for funding and implementation from a plan, and that plan is cited, that plan is shown to be used, there's letters of support, the funding request with the plan is going to do better on scoring than the funding request without the plan, especially if it's regional, especially if it's multi-municipal, because instead of saying, oh, hey, this will benefit 5,000 people or something, you actually now say, oh, it's part of a multi-municipal connection, and this has a regional benefit to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000, depending on the scale of your multi-municipal plan. Next slide. So, in case you want to find out how to receive funding for doing multi-municipal plans, this is our municipal assistance program. We do planning and shared services. A lot of it is planning. You can visit the link there and read the guidelines. But again, if you want to do a multi-municipal plan, this is the program to use to do it. Please contact us at DCED and we'll help you build your application, get together with your regional partners, and build a multi-municipal planning process. So next slide, please. So before I go, I'm just going to cover 2 quick projects that I have participated in to highlight that this is possible for big and small municipalities. So I know we're running short on time, so very briefly, these are 2 municipalities out in Columbia County. They're 2 rural townships of about 4,000 next to a borough of about 8. And they cold called me and they said, hey, Ted, we want to do planning. We don't know what we don't know what to do. We don't know where to start. And I said, no problem. I'm going to come. I'm going to educate. We're going to talk about what you want out of this plan, and we're going to develop everything you need, a steering committee, an RFP. I'm going to help you with your grant application. And next slide, please. We got together and we did it. We figured out a budget. We figured out how much each municipality would need to contribute, and we helped them pick a consultant as part of an RFP process. So it was really educational and really rewarding. Next slide, please. In the planning process for these two rural communities, we found out that there were 4 things that were really important to them. By the way, anybody that thinks planning is something for cities and urban places, that's not true. This plan proves it. They prioritize things like rural culture and agricultural, getting their youth involved, and conservation, natural resources, and open space. There wasn't much to do about city blocks or anything like that. They wanted to focus on the fact that they lived in this pristine rural landscape and they wanted to keep it that way. Next slide, please. As I mentioned about funding in that contract with Hailstone Economic that they had, that's a firm up in Scranton. One of the things that they had was 25 hours of support from the consulting firm to basically find a project that they can get done. That project ended up being recreational amenities, and so they applied to DCNR. Next slide, please. So they applied to DCNR for a grant for $25,000 to match the $25,000 they had put up for a master site plan for their park. And DCNR came and said, this is the way this should be done, and getting your community plan together, showing us that you've demonstrated this need and this desire to do it. And here it is. They received the funding for the master site plan for the park. And if you noticed before, this was a $30,000 project. This grant was for $25,000. The money they invested in the plan almost paid for itself pretty quickly. Next slide, please. This one is really cool. This is called the Scranton and Abington's Planning Association. This is up in Scranton for all the office fans here. So this is actually 9 municipalities that came together to do an enormous regional land use plan for an area that covered everything from super urban Scranton to the completely rural Abingtons. This is a project that has literally taken about 15 years, but they don't normally take that long, so don't worry. Just COVID and a few other things made it take a while. But what they did was that multi-municipal zoning to a huge scale. So next slide. What ended up happening is literally that. The consulting firm, Environmental Planning and Design out of Pittsburgh, in case anybody knows them, they went around and developed a series of transects for the entire region. So it simplified and streamlined the land use and the zoning for the 9 municipalities involved. And what happened was you were able to focus on infill and density in the city of Scranton, where you need infill and density. And then in the smaller rural communities, we were able to get one of the communities down to 2 very simple low density zones. And that's what they wanted as a community. There was a landfill in the region that already went to the place with a landfill. So that was the spot for it in the region. Nobody else had to take the land use of the landfill. The last community is getting ready to adopt their piece of the ordinance, but we hope that when it's done in the next few months and they make that adoption, this is going to be one of the biggest multi-municipal shared zoning efforts in the entire Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Next slide, please. So one more reminder, these are 2 projects that were done through our Pennsylvania Municipal Assistance Program. You can visit the link on that page and check out the Municipal Assistance Program. And if you're interested in having us come to your community to help you support a planning effort, my contact is on the next slide. And you can also visit our website at dced.pa.gov/planning. So thank you to everybody.
Thank you so much, Ted. That was fantastic. I learned a lot there. I wasn't aware that this resource existed. How do you find that most folks come to learn about the Center for Local Government Services?
We're out a lot. We try to go to PSATs, we try to go to PSAB, we try to go to the conferences and talk with people. But the nice thing is we're a regional network of local people. So a lot of the folks like me, I work in the couple dozen counties in northeastern Pennsylvania around Scranton. I was born and raised here, so I kind of know the lay of the land. The other folks who work in western Pennsylvania, they're from the area as well, and it's really just kind of a word of mouth. We do these we do these webinars, things like that, try to interact with people and have conversations, because that's really the most important thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. If I could ask our other speakers to come on screen as well, so we could just have a brief Q&A. And if any lingering questions, we don't have much time, of course. And for those that are sticking on, I appreciate you spending just a few extra minutes. But one question that we did get, and Chris, this might be more appropriate for you, but are you aware of a public dashboard that maybe, or Mark or Ted, of a dashboard that maybe the DEP or another agency that tracks the infrastructure and infrastructure bill funding and IRA programs and rebates that are applicable to Pennsylvania? I know there's a lot of interest. I know I use a climate portal myself to keep track at the federal level, but I'm sure the question is more focused on the state level.
Well, what I was going to say is that I know that there's individual program pages. I just messaged the other people that I work with to try to get an answer to that, but I haven't heard back from them yet. It's overlapping. There's a climate team meeting right now, so that might be why I haven't heard from them. But I know that for some of the individual programs there are. I don't know that there's one sort of page with public facing information about the status of all of them, though, not to my knowledge. Oh, wait. Hold on, just right after I said that, there is a state page for each of the two separate programs, one for the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act and one for the Inflation Reduction Act. I mean, she gave me links to those, so I can put them in the chat or something.
Yeah, if you could put them in the chat and also forward that email, we'll be sure to include that information in our follow-up email.
Sure, I'll go ahead and do that.
I appreciate it. Well, I think I don't want to take up everybody's time too much. We're already 10 minutes over. But if there's any lasting words that anybody would like to leave, please feel free to speak up. But in the but regardless, appreciate everybody's chance to all of our speakers providing their expertise and sharing their wisdom with us based on their experiences working with sustainability teams. Thank you, everybody, for attending and participating, listening. Hopefully, we've learned something, made a stronger connection, maybe generated some good ideas that can be put into action here soon. Feel free to always reach out to us here at Sustainable Pittsburgh to learn more about sustainability teams or the Sustainable PA program, or if you learn something interesting that you want to bounce and brainstorm some ideas with, feel free to give us a call. Thank you all very much and appreciate it. Lots of good stuff in here, so thank you so much. And enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time at our next Policy Connection webinar.